Hello and welcome to another video. It's gotten so rainy outside I can't do the walk around today, so we're back to something a little more classic, a little more old-fashioned. Coming to a foreign country to live is one of the coolest things that I think you could possibly do in your entire life. And the reason for that is that you are able to challenge yourself when you do that in ways that you would not otherwise given any other living situation that you would find anywhere else in the world. And usually I would start a video like this talking about how I've received a bunch of emails, but because it's about failure, because it's about how you should not do something, this usually comes after the fact, once people have screwed up, once they have come over and just wanted to live in Japan and then it's gone completely off the rails. And I don't usually receive emails at that time. It's more that I observe things occurring after the fact and I have my own subjective experience to draw on. So it's coming in reverse order. I'm reverse engineering this solution here, but then hopefully so people can find it before they've even taken their first step. So when we get excited, when we set out on this exciting new experience, what usually prompts it is emotional content. That's what we do in life. We have things that propel us from an emotional spark. And it's no surprise because emotions are what feel good. If we were lacking those, then we would be emotionally mute as we went through all our different experiences. So naturally, this is where our first interest comes from. We want to go and live in Japan or wherever else it is that we want to go. But where this creates a problem is that's enough to get us started. That's enough to get us usually seeing the first step. It gets us out the door. But where the problem lies is that it's not much further past that first step, and we fail to take into consideration things beyond that. Now, I had this great epiphany recently that really coalesced my thinking regarding this, where I ran a marathon recently, and I'm a big proponent, I'm a big supporter of willpower and perseverance. For those of us, majority of the population who aren't a bunch of super geniuses, we get through a lot of things by persevering because we didn't so perfectly identify every single intellectual detail that we could make our problems crumble before us in that way. But because of that, I think it results in us failing to identify just how much we should have planned. And my example for this is that when I finished the marathon, I got to about 36 kilometers, started to go dead at about 32, that if they had allowed me to, I would have crawled across that finish line with one leg. One of them could have fallen off and that would have been totally fine. But for the fact that I did not plan, the atoms were not arranged in my body that could carry me over the finish line. It's not emotional. It's just a calculation. It's just planning and execution. And had I done that, then I would have succeeded. Like I say, non-emotionally. It doesn't have to do with, were you willing to put in that effort? Did you have the strength, the fortitude, the willpower to get over that line? It was, are you trained or are you untrained? It's sort of a binary thing. Have you planned? Have you not planned? And this is the idea that I'm holding up here in the video, that wanting to come to Japan, wanting to live in Japan is not enough. You got to plan for it. And too many people are coming over and after the fact, realizing this, and it usually results in what I would talk about in this video is like the number one problem, what this does to all of us is it rushes choices that we need to make because we only know that we need to make them all of a sudden. So you'll finish a contract or whatever work you have, and because you're only thinking to the end of that contract, you don't have a solution or a next step beyond it. And then you've rid yourself of all power that you might have had in terms of choice because you haven't planned. And so what I'm thinking is that if you avoid this, you're going to have a much better time. You're going to be able to arrive at difficult forks in the road and make a really cogent, lucid decision. And you look like, to the outsider, to the observer, like you were able to predict the future. And if only it were that fantastic and amazing, but it's simply that you were looking ahead to the next thing. I compare it to, I talk about this marathon. It's when you finish the marathon with an incredible time and people say, wow, that's incredible. But in this case, removing the mystery of life is a good thing. You finish You get a great score, and it's not surprising to you because you trained so hard and you had an excellent plan. In the same way, I draw a parallel if you were studying a language, as I am now for the next level of the JLPT. I'm going to come out of this test. I've finally figured this out, where I'm not going to come out and say, I hope I passed. I worked really hard. I had great perseverance and will. I'm going to come out of this next test going, of course I passed, because I had such a good plan, because I prepared so well. And I would hope that you could do the same, and you're going to have much better results in your experience because of that. And it doesn't matter which choice you have in terms of a starting point. It applies to all of them. So if you're going to come over here on a working holiday visa and perhaps start out in the service industry here, because you're allowed to do that, have the next step. Is it a better restaurant that you're going to go to? Is it that you're going to do some online education while you're here and maybe you become a teacher? Are you going to use that as the first step, get special permission to then teach English, if you're fluent at that, in cafes? If you're coming over here to teach, don't, as I've said in other videos, obsess about the first step that has to do with these garbage dispatch companies. They're great for getting in the door. You think about the next step. Are you going to work at a private school? Is that what you're aiming at? Are you aiming at an international school? Maybe you want to get a higher education for a master's degree so you can go and work at a university, but you have that next step. If you come over here, for example, and you have maybe even a better situation than either of these, maybe you're a full stack programmer and you're going to come and work for some international company and you found a way in to at least an entry level one. And you know that the best jobs for full stack programmers are given to all the people who come over here and have a fantastic idiomatic understanding of the Japanese language. Then you should, before you even arrive here, be taking the JLPT and working on that. Long story short, ultimate message of this video is wanting to do something is not enough. Persevering is not enough. You need to have a plan, and it doesn't need to be obsessive. You don't need to be one of these people coming over with 5 years ahead of time, but at least plan out 6 months, 12 months, 18 months into the future. You're not only going to have these great things that you know that you want to do, but maybe you can even adjust your course a little bit once you're here and you discover something else that you enjoy, but you at least have this contingency that this way will at least be, as far as I understand it, very, very favorable. And most of all, better even than the course that you have, you avoid these snap decisions that you have to make if you haven't prepared. Come over, want to do that, have the emotional content like Bruce Lee talks about, but then have a plan of execution, and that first year, second year, third year, fourth year, and onwards, if you're living here for the long term, are going to be some of the best years of your entire life in Japan or any other foreign country that you went to. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do give it a like. If you would like to catch more content like this, perhaps consider subscribing, smashing that bell button, so as new content arises on the channel, you're notified immediately. If you'd like to go the extra mile, there's always my Patreon to support me for as little as $1. All sorts of fantastic perks that you'll find over there, and the link down in the description below. I made one other video discussing escapism in Japan, which I think somewhat relates to this, so I'll put it in a card up in the top of the video if you want to check out that one as well. You guys are awesome. Thank you very much for watching. The clock has run out.